Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this big guy. This is the Tepe Designs Hornet II, the Hornet II. First off though, full disclosure, I want to thank Tepe Designs for sending this guy along. This guy is this was a review sample sent to me by the maker. I told him as always, I'm going to talk about the good, the great, the bad, the ugly. Might be a gem, might be junk, he still sent it along. Nonetheless, we have to assume that this is the very best quality controlled one of these guys ever, and that I'm done doing my best not to let this affect the nature or quality of my review. Next thing, size comparison. This is a big knife. 100%. We can see this guy up next to the PM2. It's a big knife. Here it is against the Spyderco Delica. Yeah, big knife. Here it is against the Ontario Rat #1. Number 2, it's a big knife. Nonetheless, this is a big freaking knife. And so hopefully you'll keep that in mind as you're looking at this. Then finally, a note. This actually is apparently a pre-production knife. I didn't know that at the time that I accepted the sample. That's fine. Apparently there are going to be no functional changes between this and the final production. But that is something to keep in mind. If there are differences relative to production that you end up picking up, please do let me know down in the comments there. But for the most part, the Tepe is telling me that it should be, or at least the maker is telling me that it should be pretty much identical. So there is that. So let's go on ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly of this very interesting and very, very large pocket knife here. Actually, while I'm thinking about it, let me just do a quick blade length measurement. We are coming in just a hair under 4 inches on this guy. So I'm not whistling Dixie when I say it's large. Anyways, let's talk about the good, the great, the bad, the ugly. On the good side, to start with, the price on this guy I think is pretty solid. We're coming in at $225. Now, that's a fair chunk of change, certainly, but it is M390 blade steel here. It is very well done, generally speaking, and you know what? I don't have a big objection to that. So I think the price on this guy is pretty solid. That's a nice deal. Next thing, the blade on this guy is, as I mentioned, M390 steel, but it's also relatively thin behind the edge. It's kind of hard to show that off here, but if we look at the very tip here, yeah, that's a reasonably thin little tip. This comes ground down to a very nice area. You can't really tell that because they screwed up the sharpening choil at the very back here, but it comes to a very thin edge, which I appreciate very much. It's a nice blade for actually getting things done and cutting things, which is good. Next thing, this is a pretty lightweight knife. Like I said, this guy is coming in just under 4 inches. And the weight on it is not trivial, but we're coming in at like 4.1 ounces. So that's approximating the ounce and inch law. It's certainly not quite there. And it's not like, oh my God, I want something super lightweight, but it is a relatively lightweight thing. And I got to say the balance on it is still good. You would think that having the carbon fiber handles here, coupled with this big, thick old blade, and the blade is a little on the thick side, would make for bad balance. But no, it balances right about where you'd expect it to. So I appreciate that very much. The balance on this knife is quite good, and I think in the hand it's pretty damn good too, which actually you could bring as the next issue. Well, actually, the next good thing. The ergonomics on this guy work pretty very well. Wow, I'm talking pretty very good today. But it is well balanced, and that leads to the good ergonomics overall, and certainly helps them along. Next thing on this guy, the carbon fiber on this guy is actually pretty good. There was a lot of bad carbon fiber in the world. Do I have any bad CF on the table here? Yeah, not really. This is actually, I would argue, this is very nice carbon fiber, and especially given that because you're getting this kind of, it's cut through, you're getting a good cross-section of that carbon fiber. I have no reason to believe this is anything other than solid carbon fiber. And by the way, nice lanyard hole in the back there, completely hidden, but available for use. But we've got carbon fiber all throughout this, and we just see it looks good. This looks like quality carbon fiber. This is the kind of carbon fiber I like to see in the world, and so that's a nice thing as well. Next thing, clip on this guy. This is a milled clip. That said, it has actually a very nice, it lands in a very nice place. It's not landing on top of this groove here. It's landing next to it. But more importantly, it's got this little ball in there, and that ball actually does a pretty damn good job of keeping this guy, secure in the pocket, but making it pretty easy for you to drop that drop that back into your pocket, which is good. And the ball doesn't seem to want to come out either, so that's another nice thing. And it just has the right amount of flex, the right amount of bend, and it also has a little bit of cant to it, so it keeps in the pocket, it hangs off to the side there, which is a nice thing, especially when you're going to have a relatively tall blade like this guy. So the clip on this is good. And then finally, on the good side, I got to say the design on this guy is pretty interesting. It's a unique design, specifically in the blade area. I mean, this part back here, okay, but the blade itself has this weird kind of, I don't even know how to characterize this. It's like a bat wing style thing. I don't quite know what it is, but it's got the 3 different unique humps to the blade there, and each one at a slightly different angle. I think a lot of people are going to find that very compelling and interesting and very different, certainly. So I got to say, it's nice that he's going a little bit off the beaten path with the design. Look, at some level, right now, one of the biggest things we're struggling with in the community is so many designs that are just kind of vanilla, ho-hum, like, how is this any different than every other damn thing? This one does not have that problem, for better or potentially for worse. Next thing, and actually that, to me, is everything in the good side. It's got an interesting design. It's got a nice clip, good carbon fiber. It's pretty lightweight, got a nice blade, and a good price. Pardon me, on the great side, the great on this knife is easy. It's the action. The action on this is good. Actually, the action on this is great, right? It has a very, very nice action with a very nice detent. I can put no wrist into this, deploy it 100% reliably. In fact, I don't know. I'm going to try and not deploy this. No. The detent on this is just great for that. It also has a very nice flicking action. You've got enough hole here that you can very easily get a finger in there and flick this guy out. That's not a problem at all, and the detent is well-tuned for both of those things. It's running on a multi-row bearing system, which you saw during the disassembly, which is a beautiful thing. Not necessarily a crucial one, but it's a nice one, certainly. And then on the close, oh yeah, this knife has a very, very nice closing action. This is drop shutty. And especially with a blade this big, yeah, that's nice. So this has a very, very good action, both in terms of the open and in terms of the close. I'm a big, big fan of the action here, and that to me is easily what is great. It's just amazing action. On the bad side, honestly, there's not too much bad going on here. I mean, to start with, like I said, the design on this guy isn't going to do it for everybody. Certainly this blade design isn't, even though I'm a fan of some batarangs, we all know this, but it's not necessarily doing it for me personally, and so it's not going to be a universally loved design, but the thing is, it doesn't necessarily need to be. Next thing, this little Y shape here, honestly, that almost looks like a defect to me. I think I might actually prefer this guy without that Y shape in there, because every time I look at it, I'm like, oh, it's cracking. Oh, no, wait, no, that's built in. Symmetrical on both sides, that's a thing. So, that's a design critique, but I'm not a big fan of that particular Y shape. I feel like the knife probably would have looked a little cleaner without it. But that's not a huge deal, and functionally it means absolutely nothing. They did miss the sharpening choil on here. What I mean by that is that they've got an effort here to put in a sharpening choil, but it's not quite far enough out there. And so what we can see here is that there is an area where the sharpening choil just doesn't come out quite far enough, and so as a result you get a different angle here. So it makes the blade seem thicker than it is, and it's going to make sharpening just a little bit more of a pain. Frankly, I would have loved the forward finger choil on this. You've got enough blade length to pull that off, and I think that would have made it really nice. Just extend this out further, and frankly, if this were a knife I was going to be keeping, I would probably do that myself, because I think that could be pretty excellent and could really let not only make this easier to sharpen, but just, I think it'd make it awesome in the hand, personally, but that's not a big deal. And then finally, on the bad side, and this, a bunch of people, Nick, that's not bad, this is your own opinion, but this is a huge knife, and at some level, I know that the Hornet II was designed to make the Hornet I a little bit more big for people, so at some level, that's the reason for this knife being, but it's big. It's a big freaking knife, just overall. I mean, in the pocket, we're coming in here damn near 5 inches in the pocket alone. It's a reasonably thick knife as well, in terms of, well, it's a reasonably tall knife in that way, I guess. We're coming in here like 1.5 inches, 4 centimeters or so. Not including the flipper tab. This is definitely a beefy knife in the pocket, and so you have to be damn sure that that's what you want. And so those are the things that I don't, those are the bad things, that is that it's a little bit on the big side, and even relative to a lot of the stuff in the pocket knife market here, they screwed up the sharpening choil, and this design, I think, is going to be, hit or miss for a lot of folks. So final conclusion, ugly front. There's nothing actually ugly here, so final conclusion, honestly, it is a nice knife. At some level, it's big and it's bad. That's a big part of it, right? I mean, this whole thing is designed to look a little bit badass, I gather. And it does that. And it's at a reasonable price with a nice blade, a good weight, good carbon fiber, good clip, an unusual design, and an action that is absolutely awesome. This has a stellar action. It's a little gigantic. They could use to do that choil a little bit better, and I think the design will be controversial for some, but honestly, I'm pretty impressed. This is a very, very nice knife. knife here. And if the full production is anything like this at all, it's going to offer a very, very impressive value. So if you're loving the size and the look, honestly, I can see this being very interesting. I can see this being a really nice knife for you. It's not my style remotely. There's no part of me that's going, oh, maybe I'll get one for myself. No, I'm not particularly seeing that. But even then, even though it's the size and the approach aren't right for me, I still have to acknowledge the excellence here. This is a gem. This is very firmly in gem territory, both in terms of the weight, in terms of the, frankly, uniqueness, but mostly that action is good. And so with this kind of blade, action, weight, and frankly cost, it's absolutely solid. And so, although I think it's not going to be for everybody, if you're digging the design, then your reaction to this Tepe is going to be very, very far from tepid. Anyways, there you go. I hope you found this interesting and have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.